Okay, welcome everybody to the afternoon session. It's been a fabulous morning this morning. This afternoon we're going to hear from Cathy Prior, who you've already met this morning, and Kerry Revell and Harmony Turnbull. So Cathy, you're going first. You've worked in and used keyword sign in the disability sector in a variety of roles for over 20 years. Going on to develop a passion for Auslan and connection to the local deaf community. Currently, you wear many hats, including keyword presenter and Victoria State trainer, teacher and coordinator of Certificate for Community Services at Wodonga TAFE, and lead practitioner within the practice and assessment team at Connections. And I understand you are going to tell us all around about teaching signs using the HOLME framework. So take it away, Cathy.
Thanks, Bron. So yeah, today we're looking at using the HOLME concept around sign production to be teaching signs. So when we're doing keyword sign workshops, how we break down a sign in particular for our participants. So I will share my screen and we'll get started. Now you may have to forgive me a little bit. My computer can be a little bit laggy when I'm sharing screen, but hopefully will work for us today. Okay, so the objective of what we'll have a chat about today, as I said, is using HOLME, but also what it is for those who may be unfamiliar, how we can break down a sign using the concept of HOLME, and the importance of using that when teaching keyword sign in particular. And I know we're pushed for time today, but if we get enough time, we'll have a bit of practice at breaking some signs down as well. If you've got any questions, please let us know. Our moderators are watching the screens. You can pop your hand up. If they don't see you, you could just turn your mic on when we get to the question stage. Okay, so for those of you who are not as familiar with the concept of HOLME, it's the components of sign production, and we borrow that also from Auslan. So this is the same sign production used for signs in the Auslan language as well. H stands for handshape, which is 31 major handshapes in Auslan. However, there are actually 32 variants of those handshapes as well, making up a total of 63 different shapes that we use with our hands to create signs. O is for orientation, which refers to the way that our palm is facing when we're creating a sign. L is location, for where the sign is placed on the body or where the sign is occurring in time and space. M is around the movement. So what is it that the sign is doing? Is there a movement in the sign, a straight arc, a twist, a circle, etc.? It's also about the speed. E is for expression. So this is now about what our expression is doing. Our head, our eyebrows, our eyes, our mouth, our cheeks, but also our body. And I think often we think about the face when we're thinking about expression. We don't think so much about our body, and that becomes really important. So for example, with expression, if we were doing the sign tired, we might also drop our shoulders. So it's more than just our face and our head when we're talking about expression. So when we're talking about HOLME, that is what we're referring to, breaking a sign down by these components of handshape, orientation, location, movement, and expression. And so here's an example. If we were using the sign sister, then we would be breaking it down by handshape, which is the hook handshape. The orientation here has been broken up into two sections of fingers and palm. So if our fingers were up, our fingers are in the upright position rather than straight out or down, so the fingers are up. Our palm is to the left. Now, when I'm teaching using HOLME, I often don't use left or right because this is going to depend a little bit on whether your signer is a dominant right hand or a dominant left hand. So I'll often talk to you about the palms facing your non-dominant side, or the palms facing away, or the palm is facing to. Location for this sign is bridge of the nose, and movement is contact twice, sister. And so when we break down signs in that way, we're being very deliberate in how we're teaching it. We're ensuring that people are getting the correct hand shape, and while we're discussing that, we can be looking at the room. We're ensuring that they've got the right space in terms of where or location where the sign is occurring and the right movement. So it can slow down our signing, but also break it down into manageable components when we're teaching. So if we looked at some other signs, and this is where feel free to jump in if you've got some examples as well. I have picked purposely today one-handed signs because I actually have a broken left wrist, which makes it a little bit difficult when trying to get correct hand shape for some of them. So I have purposely chosen one-handed signs. But if we're looking at the HOLME for these signs, we've got mine. So we'd be breaking that down into hand shape, which is fist, orientation, which is palm towards my body, location, chest, movement. And this depends a little bit on how you want to describe it, because mine does, as the sign's being created, move towards your chest. You may just say that it touches chest. Expression is often situational dependent, so it's quite hard sometimes to give an example of expression, because if I was saying, you know, that these bag of chips that I'm here, this is mine, I want it, it's mine, versus is that mine? My face changes between possession versus questioning. So often when we're breaking down a sign, when we're talking about expression, it's very situational dependent. When we have the sign for Y, we're now talking about the gun hand shape. The orientation is palm to non-dominant side. The location is below dominant shoulder. The movement is to, again, it depends a little bit on how you want to describe it, because it's not so much a tap, but a swipe down twice. And expression is often questioning in terms of, why is that happening? Why are you going there? Anyone else got any other examples that they'd like to give?
No, you're doing a fabulous job. Keep going, Cathy Prior.
Great. I was going to say, I can't see anybody on my screen, so I'm going to take silence as a no, but thanks for that, Tina. Awesome. All right, so if we move on, hold on, my screen's having a bit of a moment. It'll catch up with us. Here we go. One of the other reasons why it's important to use HOLME when we're teaching sign is because we want our participants to understand that if we make a change to just one of those features, we actually can change the meaning of our sign considerably. So here are some examples. Again, I've purposely chosen mostly one-handed signs, but I can change me to mine. And what is it that I've changed? Does anyone want to jump in? What have I changed between me and mine?
Handshake.
Absolutely. So I've changed my hand shape, and in the process, I've changed the sign. What about today versus what? What have I changed?
Location.
Absolutely. What about man versus goat? Man versus goat. Movement. Yep. Movement and a little bit of orientation, because I now am moving my palm out. Absolutely. And with the give to you, give to me, or give to them, I'm changing my direction. So although I haven't changed the sign, I have added some meaning now onto that by changing the movement there. So my next question and answer is to the room. Why do you think it's important, or how have you used HOLME when teaching?
Anyone? Put your hands up.
I'm going to stop sharing for a moment so I can see faces. It's a bit disconcerting looking at a black screen. So anyone I'm assuming that we have other presenters in the room.
Yeah, Ashani,
I know we can see a few.
I've got a really good HOLME poster that's got a big circle in the middle, and I use that. I can't remember where I bought it from.
So I find that explaining the concept of HOLME and where it comes from, that it is the sign production, it's how we create a sign. The other thing that I explain to people is it's actually, you can write a sign down using HOLME. So if you're like me and you're a really bad artist, even at stick figures, I suck at stick figures. But I can write a sign down that I'm not as familiar with using the concept of HOLME. So even someone who doesn't know the formal hand shapes, they don't know that something's, the good hand shape or the bad hand shape or the cup hand shape. If they describe it as to what makes sense to them, but breaking it down using the concept of what is my hand doing, what's the orientation of my palm. If they understand that concept, then if they see a sign or they're taught a sign or they've looked one up and they, like me, are not a very good artist, you can actually write them down in that order as a way of remembering. And I often, when I've got workshops, if I've got enough time, I've got a handout that I've created as an example of breaking down HOLME, and then a couple of the signs from the vocab 1 and 2 as examples, and I'll actually get people to write them down during the day. Then I have a spot at the bottom that is blank, where if they've often, as always in a workshop, someone says, what's the sign for aeroplane, or what's the sign for such and such? We'll find it on Sign Bank and we'll use that as an opportunity to go through Sign Bank. But we'll then also say, okay, that's fantastic. Now write it down, because that's not in your Getting Started book. So use that template and let's write that down using HOLME. So it's another way of them taking additional resources home with them. Anyone, why is it important that we're using it, but more in particular, why do we need to know about HOLME?
It's Tina here. I think it's
Hi,
important, particularly for presenters, so they are able to keep their signing consistent and true to Auslan and respecting Auslan. It's part of us understanding and respecting that Auslan is a language in its own right, and that there will be variations according to different people's body shapes and how they sign and individual differences. And sometimes we might need to address that as well, particularly if someone comes to the workshop who's got compromised physical abilities in use of hands, or maybe a missing digit or a missing limb. So we need to be mindful of continuing to have the meaning of the sign, but then thinking about what modifications we might need to accept as well for that individual.
Absolutely, and Tina, I couldn't agree with you more around the respect for Auslan as a language. And anyone who saw my speak this morning, it's an area I'm very passionate about, in that for us to continue having access to Auslan signs and to be doing that in a respectful way, we need to ensure that we are using sign production features appropriately. But as Tina's saying, sometimes we actually need to look at that with the person in mind. And so Lynette, who spoke at lunchtime about Kalinda and Nixon, her two children, I've been working with them for a little while. And their modality around their signs can be a little bit difficult because their fine motor skills have impacted around their use of sign. So some of their signing is not necessarily very clear using the HOLME concept. However, when I'm teaching their support staff or their communication champions in their lives, we are still using HOLME. We're ensuring that the people around them are using the correct HOLME structure when they're signing with Kalinda and Nixon, but are accepting their approximations in their handshapes in particular. And I know we're pressed for time, so I've got 2 minutes of my allocated 20 if there's any more questions. Do you want to break down another sign before we go? What would you like to do?
I think that'd be useful.
Just raise your hand and we'll ask you to put your mic on. Yeah, that. Thanks.
I can see Shana.
I just wondered, Cathy, whether you'd be happy to share that resource.
Absolutely.
That you put together for HOLME, or is that? Yeah, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me, Cathy, and then when we make the recordings available, we will also make any resources that the presenters wanted to be made available.
No problem. I can send that through to Chloe, who can pop it up.
Okay, you've got 1 more minute, Cathy, if you want.
Okay, 1 more minute. So let's break down one more sign. Let me have a look at what we've got here. All right, let's use sorry. Does anyone know the handshape for sorry?
Floor.
Yep, so the ball handshape. What would be the orientation for sorry?
Palm towards the face.
Yep, so palm towards body, palm towards face. And I often, when I'm doing this in workshops, I won't correct people in how they describe their orientation unless it's absolutely wrong. If they're just saying something that makes sense to them, I'm not going to correct that because they're the ones who need to remember it. If they're saying palm away, then obviously I'm going to correct it because it's not correct to the sign, but I'll go with palm to face. Location, where in time and space is this sign occurring?
Lower face, like chin area?
Yeah, so with Auslan, it would be right over the mouth. I guess with Kiwi Sign, we often drop it just below our lips so that we're still having our lips and words there able to be seen. So sorry. What's the movement? Shaking twice.
They're
sorry.
Side twice.
So
I know Chloe's going to kick me out, but I'm going to do expression really, really quickly because sorry does have an expression to it. Because are you actually really, I'm really sorry that I did that, or are you cheekily going, oh, I'm not sorry at all? Not at all. So our expression can change the meaning of that sign. And I'm sorry for stealing someone else's time. Sorry. But thank you very much for coming to my TED Talk today.
thanks, Cathy.
Thanks, Kathy. That was great.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Kerry on now. Kerry, you're a retired speech pathologist who retains a passion for supporting people in their keyword sign journey. You've done a diploma of Auslan studies and had a period working with the deaf community and developed strong interest in Auslan linguistics and how, as keyword signers, we can incorporate aspects to enhance the meaning and fluency of our keyword sign presentations. So you're going to talk to us about using sign modifications to enhance meaning and fluency in keyword sign communication. Thank you, Kerry.
Kerry, you are muted, so if you just tap on your
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yes, am I on? I'm just a little square in the bottom, so I'm assuming I'm a full screen to people watching. Is that correct? Right. Look, we've got just these very short little presentations, so I'm going to be flying through this very quickly. What I'm doing is following on in a lot of ways from what Cathy has just sort of presented with her HOLME, and she touched on a little bit about directionality and not placement, but that aspect of sign production features. What I'm wanting to do is talk more about sign modification, because we know from our keyword sign that it's really important that we're providing not only auditory, but we're providing visual information as well, and it needs to be visually meaningful. And I think that sign modifications help our information to be meaningful. Now, I need to say right up front, my apologies. I do not have a PowerPoint for different reasons. My broken foot is part of it, but also I'm operating off an iPad, and I just don't have the technical skills to put a PowerPoint through my iPad. So there will be notes that will be available sort of, when everything is made available. My main reference for this is the Auslan Sign Language, the Australian Sign Language Auslan, an Introduction to Sign Language Linguistics, which is by Trevor Johnson and Adam Schomburg. Fabulous book. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar with it. I was going to say it's a practical session, so please, again, join in with me with the signs. I'm going to make reference to two books. This one, which I've just chanced upon recently for a family workshop, the Grug series of books, Grug Goes to the Beach, and We're Going on a Bear Hunt, and my own sort of individual, signing. So we already know the importance of using some sign modification. It's been talked about, the importance of having that correct direction. Things like, I'll help you, will you help me? We know if that's not in sync, there can be confusion. there can be issues. But also, if you don't know how to modify and say, oh, do you want to help me? You can end up having to put more signs in. Do you want to help me? You know, it takes more time. So doing sign modifications appropriately, you can put more information into that one sign, and also then, because there are a reduced number of signs, you can be more fluent, you can be quicker, more fluent. So sign modifications are really great. I'm going to skip through quite quickly some of the things that I might have mentioned before, and I'm just going to come through here. This is my concession to a PowerPoint. It says there are 5 ways to modify verbs. So verbs are the focus of this presentation. And the first one, the spatial and directional or locational information, you already know that from your keyword sign basic workshops. People that are familiar with Auslan know that we have to modify the direction, we modify for the location where the participant or the referent is. And that's modifying for person and location. The second one is modification to express number. Now, we don't use that in keyword sign. We're going to use that sign number. We're going to say, oh, there are 3 men. Or look, there's 2 cats. We'll use that sign number rather than a modification. It's these next 3 modifications that I want to be talking about. Modification of movement to express how an action referred to unfolds in time. So that's aspect, modification for aspect. Modification to represent how an action happens. So that's modification showing manner. And then modification to express intensification of meaning. So that's intensification. So just picking up with manner, I'm going to do out of sync and do manner first. It describes how an action is carried out or how it happens. Don't forget, we're talking about actions. Verbs are actions. We know verbs are so necessary to communication, for sentence construction and language development. So if you can really look at putting more information into the verbs with these different modifications, I think it helps making our communication more visually engaging. And if it's more engaging, then it's a benefit to the person that we're communicating with as well as for ourselves. So manner, English manner, there's often separate words and phrases that appear next to the verb. So we might say, oh, the man walked quickly across the room. It can be with some different words to imply manner. So instead of walk, maybe stumbled, maybe limped, maybe stepped, tiptoed, hopped, run. There's different words that we can use. In Auslan, in keyword sign, we tend to use walk or run. But in Auslan, there's a range of signs for human motion. So they have got, as well as walk and run, they've got sprint. So for really fast running, march. This one I really like, tread or step, and then to walk, backwards and forwards to walk somewhere. Okay, so if we look at Auslan, they do also have some separate adverbial signs. So they might say, the man, he ran fast. But more often, they will modify that manner. So it might be, he walked fast, he hurried. Or he limped down. In that book, Grug, I've said Grug hurried down to the beach. He wasn't running, but he was walking, but he was hurrying to the beach. I use this tread a lot we're going on a bear hunt, and I talk about in the thick, oozy mud, squelch, 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 and then sinking into the soft snow. And I think that's much more meaningful than just doing it as a walk. Other verbs can be modified for manner as well, so that, working hard, labouring, exerting effort. Just coming back to this tread, again, this is great for animal signs. Think of a lion, stalking, the lion stalking the prey. So again, it's that manner modification for manner. Okay, aspect, and I realise I'm not timing myself, so I'm not quite sure where we are with time. It refers to how an action is performed over time.
10 minutes.
At a particular time. 10 minutes. I've done 10 minutes or I've got 10 minutes?
No, you've got 10 minutes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. In English, we often use tense to indicate time in which an action is being described when it's taken place. So we might say it's happening now, it's happened before, it will happen, maybe happen at Christmas time, next week, things like this. But aspect is different. It's about the duration and frequency of an event rather than the actual time it occurred. So it's about how it unfolds during time. This is really a complex area, and I guess maybe for speeches, the terminology might make a little bit of sense. It's easy to think of durative verbs that take time to unfold. So think of to grow, to walk, to wait, to gain confidence, maybe to improve, to fall asleep, to blow up something. The verb can be reduplicated rapidly or slowly, and that gives some different meaning. So I learnt when I was doing my Auslan, numerous different ways to sign wait. We use this in keyword sign, but I like this sign, to wait, where both the non-dominant and the dominant hand are moving up and down. And the rate that they move gives some different meaning. So if it's a slow, this is a reduplication of the movement. And if it's a slow reduplication, it means I'm waiting over time. You know, there's that persistence with it. So it could be I've waited for a long time. So I've done, Grug was waiting. He was waiting for a parcel to arrive. So that's that one. Have a go with me if there's something that is new. But if we're doing this and it's quick, this is a little bit different. It's like, I've been waiting here for ages. I'm waiting. Come on, hurry up. So that different movement, that modification gives some different meaning. We can make that movement incremental, and that can add additional meaning. So if you think of sunset, so we can have the moon here coming down. If we do it in incremental stages, this can imply something like it slowly became darker as the sun came down, rather than suddenly the sun was down. So have a go. How can you modifying for aspect? Whenever I see you, you're growing taller. Think of, first of all, a young child. Now think of a teenage boy. Maybe, you know, whenever I see you, you're growing taller. And then suddenly teenage boys, it's every time you see them, they're suddenly, you know, significantly taller. So it's not just growing, it's, you can show that, add that meaning to it. You're tired, I can see you falling asleep. And again, this is incremental. You can show either faster or slow. Blowing up a balloon. Is it hard? You know, oh, you're having difficulty blowing up the balloon. Oh, you were quick blowing up that balloon. I like to, with the coronavirus vaccination, saying, oh, you know, in Sydney and Melbourne, the numbers were going slowly, improving slowly. And now they're really moving up. Really good. But here in Perth, where I am, it's still slow improvement. Signs can be modified for both manner and aspect. So again, for Grug, I've said lure the beach ball. And I'm doing this slowly for two reasons. One, it was taking him time, but also it's a big ball. It's a big beach ball. You can, again, with work, we were saying this for effort, but man toiled all day. So you can really put that extra meaning for both manner and aspect into the same one. Okay, intensely. Don't forget, facial expressions, so toiling, it's got to be that effort. Okay, intensification. This refers to intensification of meaning, and this is with both verbs and adjectives. In English, intensification is often signalled by the addition of a separate word. So we've got words like very, so, really, truly, absolutely. But in Auslan, sometimes there are some separate intensification signs that might be used, like very, you know, it was very red, or truly, really. But probably more often than not, that either adjective or verb will be modified to show that intensification. And there's an interesting movement that happens, that initial hold, that's part of the sign, is lengthened. So you hold it, and then there's a sharp relief. So if we're looking at something like black, which we'd normally say black, it's like hold, release. Black. It was very black, extremely black. Tired, very tired. I'm exhausted. Sore, very sore. Okay, some other examples. He shouted with joy. He shouted with joy. So it's hold and release. Shouted with joy. He kicked the goal and won the game. And this is like really kicked the goal, won the game. Kicked the goal, won the game. And again, Grug, he had a sore nose. And again, why? He'd forgotten the sunscreen. Here, and here. He'd forgotten. So again, not just he'd forgotten the sunscreen, but it's like, it's really, this is why he's sunburned. So you're adding that intensification.
3 minutes, Kerry.
Yep. You can add, as fluent Auslan people will do, some non-manual features, so sucking in cheeks or breathing. So you might say sore. We don't need to sign that. Sometimes that just happens, but otherwise it's that intensification through what we do. So that's basically, I've kind of just gone, you know, very quickly to get that fitting. Any questions? I hope that's been new. I hope that's been interesting. I'm sorry that I didn't have PowerPoint.
That's
Are there
all right.
any questions?
Worked well. Any thoughts? Any questions? Yes, Tina.
I suppose, Kerry, what we often think about is we add expression and we're thinking facial expression, but this is a real area to explore around the added information we can provide when we're actually using signing. So we'll often talk about, you know, you need to sit down, or we'll do it fast and say, sit down here if we're being emphatic, but it'll give us some food for thought in what we can do in our use of sign, which moves, I think, beautifully into book reading with the next session with Harmony. So well done.
Thank you. So I hope for people that even if it's something that you're using, you may be able to think, oh, it's actually part of Auslan linguistics. There are rules to it, and you can think, oh, and there's some terminology. I'm becoming more familiar with it. But I think, yeah, it's just an area that we're not doing Auslan. We're just still borrowing some of those, you know, extra techniques. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kerry. That was fantastic. And maybe some of those things might be for our advanced course, that when we're doing our advanced keyword sign course.
I think, yes.
Something to
Absolutely.
think about. Okay, we've now got Harmony Turnbull. Harmony's the senior speech language pathologist who is a keyword sign presenter and state trainer. She's been learning and teaching keyword sign for over 10 years to support people of all ages to communicate and connect with each other. Harmony currently works for the Department of Education Tasmania and is doing a PhD through the University of Technology, Sydney. She has a passion for communication as a basic human right and communication accessibility, where all people are supported to understand others and express themselves to the best of their ability. And Harmony, you're going to be talking about reading and playing with keyword sign all day. Welcome.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here and so great to see so many familiar faces. It's lovely to see you all, some people that I've known for a very long time and some people I've only met recently here in Tassie, which is lovely. So I will, hey Garrett, I'll see you during the week. I will start by acknowledging the Palawa people of Tasmania, which is where I'm presenting from today. I'd like to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and of sea and land and holders of a lot of knowledge as in terms of communication that we're talking a lot about, but also multimodal communication as well. It's a lot of knowledge held in our Indigenous communities, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I will say, yeah, those two presentations from Cathy and Kerry have really beautifully flowed into mine, and obviously the books are a really nice flow into our book. So what I'm going to do with you is talk through some of the benefits, but also some of the challenges of applying this stuff. So a lot of the stuff that we've talked about just in these last two presentations, how do you put that into practice? You know, when you're reading a book, how do you add that? Thinking about home and thinking about emphasizing and modifying your signs while you're also trying to engage and connect with kids through play and keyword sign, through books and things like that. I am going to attempt to be a little bit technical. So my apology is different to Kerry's. I am going to use some technology and it may stuff up. Advanced if that happens. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And you've all disappeared when that happened. That's amazing. Oh, there you are. Cool. You can see my screen.
Yep.
Awesome. I'm not going to go into presenter mode just yet. So you'll see on my slides on the side there. It's a little bit messy, but I've only just realised while Kerry was talking, I can't share links in the chat today, which is what I was hoping to do. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking and background stuff, and then we're going to attempt to use breakout rooms. And I was hoping for you to visit these websites. So I thought I'd show you this first. You can see the long link, which you won't be able to click on, but there's a bit.ly link at the top of the slide there. If you want to grab a pen and paper and just jot that down. So you'll need the bit.ly/3 lowercase a, lowercase o, uppercase y, lowercase p, y. I think that's a Q there. If anyone wants to quickly type that in their browser, let me know if that works or doesn't work, so that you've got that there for when we need it. Oh, Tina's thumbs up. Cool. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so even if you just jot that down on a piece of paper so you can type it in later when we're using our breakout rooms, you'll mainly just need one person in your breakout room to be able to access that website. There is a second one, so I'm going to show you that one as well. So you'll see up the top here, there's a different bit.ly link. So if you just want to note down that last part of the link there, 302, lowercase m, uppercase U, little I, big S. Little and big, it's easier to say lowercase than uppercase and uppercase, wasn't it? Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry to start that off with some awesome thumbs up, Tina. I'm sorry to start that off with something so technical and menial. I will bring them up again later as well, so don't worry too much if they're not working for you now, but I just thought I'd start off with that so we can get some of those technicalities. There are some other links in the presentation, but when I'll share these slides through afterwards, and so you'll have those links there to reference some of the information. And I'm not going to go through the things that I'm aiming to do with you today, but there's that was there on the registration information in the program, but mainly just trying to inspire and help people feel confident today to go away and go, do you know what, I can do this stuff in reality, and I don't need to prep too much. Today is thinking about how can you just, you know, spontaneously use keyword sign, and feel okay about doing that in your, you know, however you like to play and use books with little people, but maybe also older people as well. So these are just some of the things that come to my mind in terms of the benefits of using books and play. And when I'm talking about play, I'm talking about open-ended play, and that's what the activities are going to be a bit about, exploring some of that. But obviously it's really fun, really engaging, and we know that everyone learns better when they're having fun. You know, and learning through play is a really great strategy. So that we're taking advantage of these really naturalistic learning opportunities. There's lots of language learning opportunities in play and in books. We know that, you know, the kind of stuff that Kerry was doing just then, you know, modifying our verbs and, you know, adding lots of really interesting vocabulary as well as language structures happens really beautifully in play as well as in books as well, when we branch out from just reading the words in the books as well. So thinking about how we're teaching little ones to learn language and acquire vocabulary, and we're adding keyword sign on top of that. So the value of these activities is actually in the rich language opportunities, and we're adding our multimodal, you know, we might be using aided and unaided AAC, thinking about keyword sign as well. I'm thinking about helping kids develop lots of concepts. Keyword sign is really great for concept development. And it gives us an opportunity for a balance of adult-directed play and also child-directed play. So we know when kids can direct the situation, they're going to be more engaged and more involved. But, you know, we can also balance that out with a bit of adult direct. So if we're thinking about particular types of vocabulary that we want kids or people to learn, then we can shape these kind of activities as well. You can pick your books. You know, there's some books that have really lovely opportunities to look at a lot of different pronouns or, you know, different types of verbs, those sorts of things. You can pick your vocabulary there. Does anyone else want to mention any of the benefits that you find around using keyword sign with books and play? Is there anything in particular?
I enjoy it just as much as they do.
It's fun for big people and little people. Kerry?
Yes. I think I don't think I'd ever unmuted myself. I think one of the real benefits of books is it allows that repetition. Children love the repetition, they gain from it, they, you know, all of the benefits that we know from what repetition sort of provides, but it's a legitimate, we can read again and again and allow them to gradually become more familiar, start to sort of, you know, be able to anticipate, participate, all of those things. So I think that's one of the real strengths with books. It doesn't matter that you did it before. You can do it again and again and again.
Lovely. Yep. Repeat and recast as well. Use the same vocabulary or in a slightly different way, or modify the vocabulary a little bit, and keep repeating it. Yeah, really lovely. Yeah. So no question, lots of benefits there around this. Some of the challenges though, and this is just from my perspective, you may feel like your own challenges, but I wanted to name these, put them out there. It can be unpredictable, you know, especially if you're letting kids pick their own book. Okay, this could have some vocabulary that I don't know much about in terms of keyword sign, but how, you know, how do we roll with that? And there could be you know, this pressure to use a large vocabulary. You know, if your play has sort of open-ended kind of vocabulary and those sorts of things, you might feel pressured to, you know, God, I've got to know all these signs before I can read this book or play with this stuff. That can be a bit of a barrier. I also find there's a tendency to get a bit hung up on fringe vocabulary, and hopefully people know what I mean when I say that. Those fringe vocabularies are those words that we don't use a lot. They don't come up a lot across different situations. So the sign for capsicum and the sign for, there's lots of books with animals, emus, and I don't know about anyone else, but I actually don't see very many emus. See a few echidnas and paddy melons here in Tassie. But those that kind of vocabulary is, doesn't come up very often, and we're very tempted when we read books and play to use a lot of that vocabulary. We actually need to think about core vocabulary in these scenarios. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. And sometimes, using keyword sign in these scenarios can take a bit of practice to feel comfortable with it. I still don't feel overly comfortable and confident, but I feel, like it's important to have a go at this stuff. And think about doing this, having a go, and then having another go, doing it a bit better, doing it consistently. You don't have to be perfect. Any other challenges before I move on that anyone else feels like for them? Any sort of barriers that come up around using keyword sign in play and books? Covered?
No, nobody. No.
Cool. I'm sure that might be others, but that's at least there are some challenges. We know this is great, but there's some challenges. It can be tricky. Some of the strategies that I use, I really try and remember, hold in my mind the keyword sign principles. So some of those things that have come up already, but remember gesture. Remember the facial expression. Remember the tone of voice. And Kerry's reading the, going on a bear hunt. Bear hunt has some great vocabulary, but it's also about the tone of voice and using your face and your body language and all those sorts of things. It's part of keyword sign, and that's really important to remember. I try and steer things towards books and toys that I'm really comfortable with, things that I've played with before, things that I've read before. So that helps me feel comfortable and more able to use. It releases some of that cognitive load, so I can keep remembering to use my hands. I do try and focus on core vocabulary that I can use across activities, different toys that I might be playing with, or across different books as well. And I'm going to refresh memory on some of that core vocabulary might be in a minute. I like to think about signs as concepts, not just words. So thinking about, we're not just teaching words here, we're teaching ideas and getting to the core of, what ideas and concepts we want to be using in our language and teaching in keyword sign. Definitely let go of perfection. Yes, we need to be accurate in our signing, and yes, we need to be respectful of Auslan. But it's so important to have a go as well, and keep learning and keep getting better at your signing, and keep checking our sign production so that we are accurate. But try not to get too hung up on being perfect when you're playing with kids. We don't need to sign constantly, but we need to try and sign consistently. So you don't need to be signing all the signs, obviously. We know keywords are really important, but we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves sometimes to sign a lot. But consistency is more of a key here. And remember to focus on that lovely engagement and lovely language that happens in these play opportunities. That's where initially the real value is, and then we're adding our multimodal communication and our keyword sign. So keeping in mind, that the keyword sign principles are really important. Remembering gesture being really important. These are some of the things that we need to, hang on to and keep reminding ourselves that, yes, there's signs for some of these things, but we can also use our gestures this is taken with acknowledgement from the keyword sign basic workshop package, just as some of the examples that are in there that we go through, and from the little red book as well. But, you know, these sorts of things, in the context of the play and in the context of the book, gesture is sometimes also going to be more meaningful than a sign, you know, depending on what's opening and what you're closing. And how big are we talking? Like Kerry mentioned before, are we talking, you know, a big toddler or a big teenager? You know, the signs there are not, you know, necessarily going to be the most valuable in terms of thinking about that language and those concepts. I'm not sure how we're going for time. 15 minutes in?
Yeah, you've got 25 minutes.
Yeah, we've got. Okay, because I'm keen to get to the doing kind of stuff. So I might let that sit there, you know, and think about your own gestures. But just, you know, when we get to our activities, remembering, you know, keeping in mind the, you know, very large vocabulary of gesture that we can take advantage of. And later I'll let you explore that link there, which is really gorgeous. Little kid doing lots of gesture while she's pretending to talk on the phone. It's a really lovely reminder of how important our gestures are. So I did want to just refresh or introduce people to core vocabulary. If you live and breathe this stuff, I apologise, it's probably stuff that you already know, but it's always really good to be reminded about the importance of a core vocabulary and thinking about words that we use across activities, across contexts, across environments, across communication partners as a really important vocabulary. It's not the be all and end all, but you know, this is you know, a really evidence-based way of
got a question here from Harmony
and learning language and keyword sign. Sorry, Bron.
Sorry, we've got a question. I think somebody got their hand up.
I do. My name's Ruth. It's just a really practical question, actually. When I am trying to hold a book and sign and engage a child, how do you do all that together?
It's pretty difficult. I don't know if I've got any easy answers. I'm going to throw it open to the group. Does anyone have any good strategies for? Are you talking about just like kind of one-on-one, Ruth, or are you talking about with a group of kids, or?
It can be one-on-one or it can be a small group. But if you're trying to hold a book and stop them from turning the page before you're ready, and then you're trying to sign, and then you're trying to keep the child engaged, I'm not overly good at getting all of those three to happen at the same time. I can do one or two maybe, but all three together is really tricky.
Yeah, that's really a practicality. A bit of a challenge. Does anyone have any suggestions for Ruth? Debbie? Oh, Debbie, mute.
I use, in small groups in childcare, we use just a book stand. So you've got your hands free of the book, and then sometimes you might have a helper who comes and turns the pages for you while you sign.
Okay.
Yeah, nice. That works for me.
Kerry's got suggestions? I thought you might, Kerry.
Yes, look, you know, whoever sort of finds the answer to that could be a rich person. It's an ongoing difficulty. I'm talking now at the grandmother age. I think that you just go with the flow, a little bit like Harmony is saying. You use that opportunity to say, oh, look, we turned 2 pages. Let's go back. This is all part of the book share activity. It's not about we've got to finish the book. And yeah. I think it's just allowing, doing what you can practically. I've tried in a family group session recently, trying to balance things and having, you know, different things happening, and then looking to the iPad there where I'm filming on my walker, and, you know, all different things. That's the reality that you sometimes have to sort of just go with. And I think you'll see on some of the examples on the Keywords Australia general membership that kids come in and they do different things, and yeah, just do your best. I mean, that's you know, my advice. There is perfect. No, you know, real answer.
Thank you for the suggestions.
Penny, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Well, I work with young children who are deaf, and their mothers come to the sessions as well. It's usually one-on-one, so that makes it a bit easier. But I have their parent, whoever it might be, sit on their best hearing side next to them, and then I have a small table between us. So I often prop the book in front of me open. I've become very good at reading upside down so that I can read the book and sign at the same time with the book sort of against me at a distance that the child can't turn the pages, but it's not very far. It's sort of, I don't know, 60 centimetres at the most.
Nice. I am going to share a video a little bit later on of me reading a book, but that's just me with a book in front of a camera, pretty impromptu. And even then, I'm a bit rubbish at it. You'll see the book slipping a lot, Ruth, and I don't even have a kid that I'm trying to wrangle in that scenario as well. So yeah, I think that can be really tricky. And I think if you can focus on a very small amount of vocabulary there, even if you're only signing one sign as a book goes along, I think there's still value in that. Just get that happening a little bit. I think you're winning. Thank you. So I'm hoping during that discussion, the slide was up, you've had a look through that. I'm not going to go through point by point about core vocabulary, except to say that, it's really valuable for us to think about. Fringe words can be really motivating, but try not to get hung up on them. So if you're balancing book and child and this sort of stuff during book reading, and you're going to just sign one or two key words, core words during that book, think about them as, if they can be words that can be used across environments and across situations as well. And the Practical AAC website has some really lovely resources on core vocabulary and exploring what core vocabulary is. What kind of words are we talking about? So I borrowed some of this information from a resource from the Practical AAC website, which is Carol Thangari's beautiful website with a huge amount of information. These are the kinds of words we're talking about, which look really familiar because they're in the interactive vocabulary, yeah? And there's gesture in there as well. This is what we're talking about, using things in that interactive vocabulary, these words that perform lots of lovely different communicative functions, and we can be using them. We're playing with particular toys. They turn up in a book. When we go for a walk down the street, oh, look, here's this same vocabulary again, same words, different situations, different use, that lovely repetition and recast that Kerry was talking before, that's so important in language learning. And I'm sure, lots of people here already know these signs. If you've done a basic workshop, you will have, I'm pretty sure, would have come across all of these signs if they're not taught necessarily explicitly in the interactive vocab. I think they all are. Or maybe not again. Oh, I've got again in there again. Oh, it's twice. I didn't realise that. What a lovely opportunity for me to sign that one again. Oh. Are there any words there? I don't want to go through them all like a basic workshop. Are there any there that anybody isn't familiar with the sign for? Or if this came up in a book that you wouldn't be sure confident about? We're good? All right. So what we're going to attempt to do, we have arrived at the moment when hopefully our breakout rooms and those links that I've given you at the beginning of the presentation, hopefully all of these things will come together and the planets will align so that you can be thinking about the gesture that we've refreshed our memories on, and that thinking about vocabulary as well, which is obviously a lot bigger than the words I've just shown you. About those kind of words. We're going to have a go at playing with toys in this virtual space. So if you click on, if you enter this link into your browser, there, you should arrive at a page that, can everyone see a new, oh, I can see people are in there already. Can everyone see I'm sharing a slide that says activity using keyword sign in play?
Yep, we can see that.
Beautiful. You. So we're going to go, sorry. Okay. We're going to go into breakout rooms. Chloe, I'm hoping you can help me out with that.
Yeah.
Cool. And in your breakout room as a group, you are going to pick a toy/game from slide number 2. So there's some suggestions there, or as a group, you can come up with your own. But I want you to do this pretty quickly so that you can get into thinking about the vocabulary that you're going to use when you're playing. So you're going to pick a toy or a game. You're going to go to the slide that has your group number on it. There's a bunch of slides. So group 1's going to use group 1 slide, group 2, you're going to put all your names at the top of the slide. Instructions are going to be there for you as well. Yeah. You're going to role play. You're going to work out what kind of things say naturally during this play, and you're going to have a look at what the keywords might be, and then you're going to have another play using those.
Okay, it's 2:05 or 2:06, Harmony. How long have we got for this?
We've got 15 more minutes and we need to finish up.
Okay, we're going to do this for 5 minutes, everyone, because this is probably something you've done in a KWS Basic workshop, so it should be pretty familiar.
I'm going to put people in 8 breakout rooms. Is that right, Harmony?
Yeah, the numbers work out all right. Yep, so I've got slides for 8.
You've got 8 slides, so I'll put people in 8 rooms.
Slides, yep, we can do that.
And
so this is an example slide of what your slide might look like. Have a go for 5 minutes.
We are creating your rooms and you'll be sent there.
Great.
Shortly.
Thanks, Chloe.
Okay. All right, you should be asked to go to your rooms now. Sorry, it's just loading.
That's okay. So we're going to do this one really quickly because then we're going to do a similar thing with some books as well. So we want to leave enough time to do same again with books.
There you go. They're all going into their rooms now. Hello, everyone's in breakout rooms. I will just assign you to one now. They're just looking at toys. Oh, you've just come out of your breakout room, is that right? Claire?
Yeah. It's Ella.
Hey, Allie. Did you lose your room? You're muted.
Sorry, I couldn't access anything at all.
Great.
Just, my screen wouldn't let me.
Okay.
So they were talking and all I could see was a blank screen with A, B in the middle. That's it.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I didn't actually know we were doing breakout rooms in this session, so I was not prepared for that.
I've never used Teams before, and so I had no idea what a breakout room was. I actually thought it was maybe the link to the
It's the same as Zoom breakout rooms. It's just little tiny groups.
I've never used that either. I've used Zoom, but not breakout groups.
Well, I think I should maybe call everyone back because we've only got 8 minutes, so I'm gonna try and do that and we'll see what happens. Just closed all the rooms and hope it kicks everyone back into this. I'm a professional.
I think you're doing a good job.
Thanks.
Oh,
So we've got Kerry now.
have I changed groups? Oh, we're finished.
Oh, we're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Words. Hungry. Walk.
Hungry?
All gone.
Hey everyone.
We're all back.
Water.
We're all back in the big room now.
Okay, we're coming back. We're on our way. Some of us aren't.
No, you're all here. You're all
Oh,
here.
we tried to do something.
Yep. If you got, what did we get? We got five sentences. So that was pretty good.
We didn't.
Anyone
Well, we
beat us?
took too long to get onto actually creating sentences, but you know.
Oh, yeah.
We-
Short on time here, Harriet.
We had the super special Penny in our group with Tracy and Dahlia and Asil and I, and we had the medical kit and we chose Miss Polly had a dolly. So I tell you, we've got all of the text and we've got all of the keywords. Thank you very much. Ta-da.
Very
There was one
I
question
would
about
expect nothing
bed.
less.
About bed, whether bed is an Auslan or whether it's natural gesture. So we don't do bed like that, just do bed like this one. So we do natural gestures, take us straight to bed, because this looks like a teaching strategy where you've got the B and the D and you're showing the children how to actually form the letters for literacy. So
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
nice,
motorically quite difficult, isn't it, for little kids?
yeah,
to
whereas this
do
one
the
would be just easy. Yeah.
Yep, this one. And then also pairing that with, you know, time to close your eyes, time to go to bed. Those sorts of things are really nice. And Kerry's lovely tired. Fantastic. So, I mean, you've all got access now to all of those pages in that presentation that you can have a squiz at what activities other people chose and their sentences and their keywords. We've got 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Books.
Don't put us back. Hang on, please.
All right. So
Right,
same deal. I will show my screen. So that second link, the bit.ly/302 little m big U little I big S. I'll attempt to bring that up. We're going to jump to that one now. Same deal. We're going to jump back into our breakout rooms, and as a group, when you go to that link, you'll land on a Google Docs page, which will have some instructions up there and a video to the book reading. So in lieu of actually having access to these books, I found some videos, and there are many more books here than we've got groups, just so that you can see some of the other books that I love to, you know, there's so many books that we could do with this sort of stuff. In your group, go to choose the book that the number that matches your group, have a watch of the video, and have a think about what vocabulary you're going to be signing with each of those books. Are we ready to go for breakout rooms again, Chloe?
Yep. I will open up all the breakout rooms, and in about 5 minutes, we'll come back to finish up.
Read, guys. You've got 4 minutes.
What was the Bitly again? Sorry.
Go.
Oh, sorry. I just opened the rooms.
302 little m big U little I big S. Hopefully someone in each room will have access to that.
Hopefully. Let's
link.
hope so.
The chats also appear to work in the breakout rooms. Hello, I have some of you who didn't make it into breakout rooms. That's fun.
Oh.
Did you make it into breakout rooms before?
Yeah.
Yes. Are you in room 4? It's still opening. I think you're all going to be sent there now. I don't know.
Okay, what am I doing?
What room were you in?
I don't know. Taryn's room. What was Taryn in? Taryn Bracken?
I can work that out. Give me a second. It's just assigning Claire back to room 4. Or we can just chill here.
I don't know what happened.
I was not expecting to have to run breakout rooms, so this was a fun surprise.
I'm pretty amazed it's happened. And I'm pretty amazed I can actually get that link working. I got the link working, so I was busy doing that. And when I came back, I was in limbo. So,
so you should be in room 3. I'm just going to unassign you and then reassign you.
So do I just click join room?
Oh, yeah, try that. That should work. Perfect.
something.
Hello, Kerry. You're always the first one here.
Will you bring me back?
I do. Yeah.
That was like too quick.
It was very quick. Hello, everyone.
Sorry, guys.
Always happens. We always run out of time. Should have known. Should have known.
Well,
but,
we are
you know,
time up, so if you can just wind up for us, Harmony.
Yep, for sure, Bronwyn. Thank you for hanging in there, everyone. I wish we had a lot more time on this stuff. But that resource is going to stay there for you as well, to have a look at those books and those videos. It might be worth exploring whether, you can use those videos in terms of, reading books, have somebody else read the book for you so that you don't have to hold that book while you're reading. But I'm going to leave those there. Hopefully you can explore those a little bit more and chat to maybe colleagues and people in the future about feeling more comfortable about using those toys and those books in the future. Thank you, everyone. I wish we had more time together, but thank you for joining us today. It's been lovely to see you all.
Thank you, Harmony. That was lovely.
Enjoy those books.
Okay. Right. Well, I think we're at the end of our day, and we've just got
10 minutes, and then the final.
So we've got
saying Keyword Sign Australia update. So head off, grab a cuppa, and we'll see you soon.